There were 3 questions related to COVID-19 at the All Candidates Forum, so I'm going to try to answer them all together and give you, as best as I can, an understanding of where I stand on these issues. I just want to take a moment to hold space that this is a charged topic with a lot of emotion, and I think we need to honor that. I know families that are still recovering from divisiveness that happened over the last couple of years. I know people that are still not working jobs they're passionate about after some of the decisions that were made. And it's a hard time for us all as we get back to normal. But I think it's super important that we have really real conversations about this, and so because this is not the last time we're going to have to get through something like this together. As the mental health crisis, the affordability crisis, and the climate crisis continue, we're going to have to find ways of having these conversations with each other. And so I just wanted to note that right off the bat. So in terms of the handling of COVID-19 by the province, I neither think that Bonnie Henry is a hero nor a villain. I think she's a human being that was trying to do the best that she could at the time when the science was changing every single day. So I think that we did the best that we could. Does that mean that everything was perfect and there weren't times of mass confusion? Absolutely not. I totally recognize that there was a lot of confusing, sometimes contradictory information and decisions being made. But I do think that people were doing the best that they could. I want to also address that there's 2 different jurisdictions. We as city councilors, well, I'm not a city councilor yet, but as city councilors, they didn't have a choice in a lot of things. The public health guidelines, the vaccine passports for businesses, those were all done at a provincial level. And so the city didn't have a say. The thing that the city did have a say in was the vaccine mandate for employees, of course. And I agree with David that I can't be an armchair quarterback and say what I would have done in that situation because I wasn't there. I wasn't privy to the information. I will say that I think that it's problematic that those meetings did happen in camera, and it concerns me that I hear that there wasn't an opportunity from anyone in the public or city employees to have some input into that. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, I think that I would say that we could have handled that differently in terms of how the decision was made, because I think it's always better when you have folks on board with something before you make a decision, before the decision is made. Whether they agree with the decision in the end or not, it's always better to hear from folks first. I have other issues with in-camera meetings as well. So the meeting to discuss whether the city would lay employees off during COVID-19 was also held in camera. I understand this is because of a bylaw that we have about labor relations, anything having to do with labor relations being in camera. I personally feel that citizens and city staff should know which councillors, if any, were in support of laying folks off. It's, that money is in the budget. We pay our property taxes. Employees rely on us as their employer and for a livelihood. And I don't think it's okay to potentially make the decision to send folks off to the federal coffers, because they would have just been collecting CERB anyway, which affects it's all the same taxes. It still would have affected our taxes. So that's one thing that I can't say that I would have made a different decision, but I think I would have handled it differently and allowed for more input. In terms of the demonstrations in the park, this is another one that I'm torn about, because I've hosted political demonstrations in public spaces, whether it's a climate justice or Indigenous sovereignty support rally on the highway. It's becoming a running joke that I was born to live on a in a highway town. So it's difficult for me to say that any political demonstration shouldn't exist in a public space. I think that's actually one of the problems we have in our political landscape right now, is that politics is something that's happening behind closed doors amongst a small amount of people versus opportunities for the whole public to engage. But I do think there needs to be rules. When we all contribute to the upkeep and the upkeep of these public spaces, then we need to know that we can access these in a fun and safe way. So I was asking my friend that's an athletic coach about how they explain rules to kids. And she said that, we tell kids that rules in sports are to maximize fun and maximize safety. And then we let them play for 5 minutes without rules, and they very quickly realize that it's not fun or safe. And so I think what we need to do is have reasonable rules that focus on making sure that how we use public spaces is in a way that maximizes fun and maximizes safety, and also let people know that there will be consequences if those intentions are not being met with that activity that you're doing. It concerns me that Councillor Wallace Richmond would say that, we wouldn't be enforcing bylaws that are on record. To me, when you don't enforce one rule, it tells people that rules don't matter and that none of them matter. So that would be something that I would look to, and not just for maximizing fun and safety for people, but safety for the planet as well. Let's talk about how we make sure that events on public space are in line with our environmental goals as well. It frustrates me that I can't go to a public event and have the necessary receptacles to compost or recycle or whatever. I literally bring garbage home. So I think there's a lot we can do with that bylaw that's on record already to make sure that it's reasonable but also with the intention of maximizing fun and safety. What would I do if we had another wave of COVID-19? I think I've already distinguished what we do have control over and what we don't have control over. So we don't have control over what the province tells us to do in terms of health mandates, but we do have control over what we do with our employees and with our public spaces. And so I would make sure that we are having more engagement, more transparency about the decisions that we do make, so that folks feel heard. Because I think a lot of what happened in the last 2 years comes down to people just simply not feeling like they were heard. And that's why engagement and transparency and talking to citizens is such a huge part of my platform, because you eliminate so many problems right off the bat when you are just able to sit down and have a conversation with somebody and see something from their point of view.